right, how you doing? Sitting here today with Mr. Mitch Joel, president of Twist Image, and here we are at the CMA National Convention for 2013, and we're at our St. Joseph Communications booth, and we're wanting to find out what people think about the world of kind of omni-channel, the connection points, how things are working today, and really want to get Mitch's perspective on how these things work and what he thinks. He's just launched a new book called Control Alt Delete. It's an amazing read. Pick it up if you haven't. I'm going to let Mitch do his thing.
Hey, thanks for having me. Omnichannel is omnichannel working? Is my my thing. I think a lot of brands are still struggling with omnichannel just because they're struggling with attribution, and so there's still a sort of long ways to go until we sort of have that true integration. As the years have been going on and on, I sort of hoped that we would converge at this point of having everything come together in that sort of perfect way. And lately it feels like there might just be this sort of world around those who can really specialize at the niche level, which might depress the bigger players, but it is what it is.
And what do you think about when it comes to working with large companies? And obviously we think they're finely honed machines, and you're walking into them and you're saying, "Wow, I can't believe you're still either paper based or you haven't built into that next level of automation where you're actually looking at customer engagement."
There seems to be two types of companies. There's the one company that's sort of very technologically advanced and they really understand and invest in their IT roadmap, and it's one that isn't like over 5 years. It's one that's sort of more dynamic and intuitive and moving now, which you don't see a lot of really candidly. The other side is more of the, gee, this is really expensive to change. And those types of expenses without visionary people, without the people who are really trying to make different types of decisions, it's really complex because you start realizing that, I got to go through these millions of cables and unplug them and try and figure out how do they untangle. And it's a kite. The kite's up in the air, it looks great, and the minute it comes down to the ground, you got to start winding up the rope. It's not a lot of fun, and I think a lot of the bigger companies are sort of having to wind up the rope, and it's expensive, it's time consuming, and it's sometimes not as obvious as doing the next thing.
Do you think it's the technology that's holding them back, or the fear of, I don't know where my next sales will come from if I stop doing X?
Well, yeah, I don't think it's about the next sale. I think it's more about the fear of if we do this and we invest in this over time, and at that moment we're actually not selling and not evolving the product, what happens then? And it is a bit of this sort of short-sightedness that we see. I do wish that brands had more of a perspective around the longevity. I mean, it's sort of like a theme that I end with in the book, but the other big theme of the book is the one of opportunity. And what I at least see is that the dynamism of the startup world is driven by this idea of possibilities, innovation, and technology. And what they're doing is they're eating the lunch of others because technology is actually pretty thin, cheap, and inexpensive. The problem is when you start trying to think about what your amortization schedule is like and the data centers and what are you going to do with all this stuff as you move forward, you sort of start struggling with it more and more. I have confidence that a lot of the companies in the next 5 years are going to really understand the dynamic shift. I mean, if you look at where we're at now in terms of the world of websites and e-commerce and social media, you think about what happens when I call this one screen world where the only screen that matters is the screen that's in front of me. And that evolution, the fact that iPads didn't exist 3 years ago and now they're outpacing PCs at a massive click, that forced change is coming. And I do think it's a question of sort of figuring out what the pain tolerance is for the company, but then also the vision of where you really want this company to be in the next 5 years. Like mitigating risks and minimizing mistakes is a great Wall Street game, but unless you're envisioning the future of your industry, you're going to be minimizing mistakes and mitigating risk a little bit too often.
And like we've seen the world of disruption and how it's taken some of the big players out, the Blockbusters of the world, the Kodaks of the world. Do you see that happening more now, or do you think people have really come around to realize that I better not hold on to this thing that I'm holding on to too long?
Yeah, it's not like a sort of zero-sum game where it happens to everybody. I think certain companies do well, certain industries do well. There will obviously be more Blockbusters in a Netflix world or more Kodaks in an Instagram world. We'll see those. I mean, just today we saw ExactTarget get acquired by Salesforce for $2.5 billion. The world continues to be an interesting and crazy place. So we will see those. I just think that there's an opportunity for bigger companies to understand that they don't need to be devoured by the small startups or just simply wait for them and acquire them. That there is some sort of positioning around strategically thinking about what that longevity looks like.
So does Instagram at $1 billion still seem strange to you in a mobile world?
No, it doesn't. In fact, I think if anything, what it showed is that big companies can make smart moves that actually impact brand in powerful ways. Facebook is a big company. and them acknowledging the fact that the majority of their traffic is coming from mobile, and I think upwards now 50% now is mobile traffic to Facebook. The move of acquiring Instagram in one instance and at the same time iterating to become a mobile platform. I mean, this was really a web browsing based experience that was created in the dorm room. And to see them shift in 6 months, maybe under, I think is actually indicative in the opposite way of a message that could be sent to bigger brands about the ability to move even when you're big.
So if you can leave with one point coming out of your book that's probably the most relevant that people can pick up on today, what's that one pearl of wisdom that you would say to everybody?
Well, I think, the subtitle of the book is Reboot Your Business, Reboot Your Life, Your Future Depends on It. And I know when I do a lot of interviews, people are like, wow, that sounds pretty dire. And it's somewhat ironic to me because I actually wrote it as a message of opportunity and possibility. And I think that's the real message, is we live in a world where a lot of this technology is very thin, it's very cheap, you can practically lease it in the cloud. And I think that more than ever, whatever industry you're in, the possibilities and opportunities to really evolve and innovate and become leaders have never been easier, and the barriers to entry have never been lower. So to me, that's what it is. It's that message of possibility.
And I like that. I like that world of, because I really look at it as the wild, wild west out there today. The opportunities to break new frontiers, to break new ground, to try new things. It just seems like a cool place of, hey, I could do that. Hey, I could do that. And I think people have to grasp it. They have to be much more entrepreneurial today than they ever have before. And I love some of the notions in your book and where you've gone with it, because it really, to me, says it's not too late, people. Get on board and do something different.
Yeah, I think ultimately, especially when it comes to the marketing industry, there's probably never been a better time to be a professional in the industry than there is right now. I know people sort of lament the Mad Men time because of the TV show and the booze and all that sort of fun stuff, but I really do think that now is a really interesting time where we're really reinventing the business. This is a world where, and everyone's throwing this piece of data out, but the Gartner is saying that the CMO is going to spend more on technology than the CIO by 2015. I think those are telling indicators of the opportunity and possibility in this industry, and that's pretty exciting.
So thank you very much, Mr. Mitch, for doing this. And as Mitch would say, if you want to find anything more about him or his book, look him up on Google. He's everywhere. So thank you, Mitch, and have a great day and enjoy the rest of the convention.
Thanks, Michael.